This lesson is on solving quadratic equations. Now, a quadratic equation has the degree of the equation being a 2, so it has an exponent or an indice being a 2. A quadratic equation results in two answers, and it would also result in a quadratic function or a quadratic graph. There are three ways to solve a quadratic equation. The first way is factorisation. Then we have using the quadratic formula, and we could also complete the square. In this video, I'm going to be dealing with solving quadratic equations using factorisation. If we look at this example, we can see that our third term is a positive 8, and that's where we start. We start by looking at our third term. So our third term is a positive 8, so now we know that our signs are going to be the same, and we're going to add the factors of 8 to give me 6. So we're going to just quickly jot down the factors of 8. They are 1 and 8, and 2 and 4. Now we're going to say to ourselves, which of those two sets of factors, 1 and 8 or 2 and 4, when added together give me my middle term, which is a 6. So I am going to pick the factors 2 and 4. So when I factorize this as 2 and 4, I'm going to have two sets of brackets equal to 0. So I know that the x squared is going to be x and x in both of the brackets. Now I need to decide on my sign. So my sign is going to be positive because of the middle term. They're both going to be positive because my third term was a positive. I've picked my factors 2 and 4. So now I factorize this trinomial, but I need to still solve for x. So solve for x means to get an answer for x. So now I have my two answers. So I know that those two factors that I have now will equal 0. So x plus 2 will equal 0, or the second factor, x plus 4, will equal 0. If x plus 2 equals 0, then that means that x would be equal to minus 2 because I take it across. If x plus 4 equals 0, then that means that x would be equal to negative 4. If I look at my next example, I'm going to start by looking at my third term. My third term is positive 24. So that positive tells me that the signs are going to be the same and that I'm adding the factors of 24 to give me my middle term, which is positive 10. So now I'm going to list out the factors of 24. So I have 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, and 4 and 6. So those are the factors that give me 24. When I look at these factors, I need to decide which of these factors, when added together, give me the positive 10. So I know that I can add 4 and 6 to get 10. So now I'll have two brackets equal to 0. The a squared factored becomes a and a in both of the brackets. I need to decide on my sign, so I look at my middle term. My middle term is positive, which means that both the brackets will be positive. I've picked my factors of 4 and 6. So now I have two sets of factors, and I need to find a value for a. So that means that a plus 4 equals 0, or a plus 6 equals 0. So if a plus 4 equals 0, then that means that a is negative 4. If a plus 6 equals 0, that means that a is equal to negative 6. Alright, looking at my next example, I look at my third term. My third term is positive 25. So that tells me that the signs are going to be the same and that I'm adding the factors of 25 to give me my middle term, which is a 10. So I'm going to list out the factors of 25. So the factors of 25 are 1 and 25 and 5 and 5. So which of those factors, when added together, give me my middle term of 10? I can see that those factors will be 5 and 5. So now I'm going to factorize into two brackets equal to 0. So the y squared factored becomes y and y. Now I need to pick my sign for my bracket. I know that because my third term was positive, that means that both the signs are going to be the same. What are they going to be? I look at my middle term. My middle term is negative, which means that both of my signs are going to be negative. What are the factors going to be? 5 and 5. So now I could also write this, instead of writing y minus 5 times y minus 5, I could say y minus 5 squared equals 0. But I want to solve for y, so I have y minus 5 being equal to 0, so that means that y would equal 5. Next example, I have m squared minus m minus 56. So now I have a negative third term. So a negative third term means that the signs are going to be different inside the two brackets, and I'm going to subtract the factors of 56 to give me my middle term, which in this case is a 1. So I'm going to list the factors of 56. So I have 1 and 56, 2 and 28, 4 and 14, and I have 7 and 8. Now I'm going to decide which of those sets of factors, when subtracted, give me a 1. So I'm going to pick 7 and 8. So now I'm going to have two brackets equal to 0. So m squared factored becomes m and m. And then I have the factors 7 and 8. So now, because the third term was negative and the signs are going to be different, we just need to know which of the two numbers gets the negative and which of the two numbers gets the positive. So it's really simple. I look at my middle term. My middle term is negative. So now I'm going to pick the bigger of the two numbers to give it that sign. So the two numbers are 7 and 8, which means that the bigger number is the 8. So the 8 gets the negative, the 7 gets the positive. But I still haven't solved for m, so now I have my two factors of m plus 7 equals 0, or m minus 8 equals 0. So if m plus 7 equals 0, m is equal to negative 7, and if m minus 8 equals 0, m would be equal to positive 8. Looking at this example, we can see that it's not in standard form. So we need to first put it in standard form. Everything to one side, make it equal to 0. So we're going to have g squared minus 12g minus 64 equal to 0. And now we're going to solve this quadratic equation by looking at the third term first. So our third term is negative 64. So that tells me that the signs are going to be different, and I'm subtracting the factors of 64 to give me my middle term of 12. So I'm going to start by writing out the factors of 64. So we have 1 and 64, 2 and 32, 4 and 16, and we have 8 and 8. So which of those sets of factors, when subtracted, are going to give me the middle term of 12? I know that that's 4 and 16. So now I'm going to have two sets of brackets equal to 0. So g squared factored becomes g, and the factors that I've picked are 4 and 16. So now, because the third term was negative, that means that the signs are going to be different. So I need to just quickly decide which of those two numbers gets the negative, which one gets the positive. So in order to do that, I look at my middle term. My middle term was negative, which means that the bigger of the two numbers gets the negative. So the bigger number is 16, so it's going to be a negative 16, and the positive is going to go with the 4. So now to solve this, I'm going to have g plus 4 equal to 0, or g minus 16 equal to 0. So if g plus 4 equals 0, g is equal to negative 4. If g minus 16 equals 0, g is equal to 16. If I look at this last example, I can see that it's not in standard form of a quadratic equation. Standard form of a quadratic equation is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And I can see here that it's not in that form. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure it's in standard form. So I'm going to take everything to the one side and I'm going to make sure that the equation is equal to 0. So that means that I'm going to take this 72 across. So I'm going to have x squared minus 14x stays the same, and the positive 72 when it goes across now becomes negative 72, and that is equal to 0. So now I can solve this quadratic equation. So I'm going to look at my third term, and my third term is a negative 72. So that tells me that the signs are going to be different, and that I'm subtracting the factors of 72 to give me my middle term, which is a 14. So I'm going to write out the factors of 72. So I have 1 and 72, 2 and 36, 3 and 24, 4 and 18, 6 and 12, and 8 and 9. Now, which of those factors, when subtracted from each other, will result in my middle term of 14? That would be 4 and 18. So now I can write out my two brackets equal to 0. X squared factored becomes x, and the factors I've chosen are 4 and 18. Now again, because the third term was negative, it means that the signs are going to be different. So we just have to pick which one gets the negative and which one gets the positive. So I look at my middle term. My middle term is a negative 14, which means that the bigger number gets the middle term sign. So I have the 18 and the 4. 18 is bigger, so the 18 is negative. The 4 will be positive. So now I have x plus 4 equal to 0, or x minus 18 equal to 0. So if x plus 4 equals 0, x is equal to negative 4. And if x minus 18 equals 0, x is equal to positive 18. I hope that this video has helped you with factorizing quadratic equations. The more you do, the better you'll be. See you soon.